This morning, President Donald Trump commenting on the arrest of Milwaukee Judge Hannah Dugan.
And we're tracking the latest on alert day conditions.
And plus, candidates are coming out for the new chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. We'll hear from one of them.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in here on News 3 Now this morning. On a busy Monday, I'm Chris Stanford.
And I'm Kyrie Lee. Thanks for waking up with us this morning. It is an alert day. This is something our weather team has been tracking for a few days now.
Yeah, it sounds like the storms could be pretty serious today. Let's get to Savannah Burrito, who's out on the patio this morning, making sure that we're prepared. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, the latest on the alert day thinking is our greatest threats are going to be the best chance of severe weather about 6 p.m. this evening until 4 in the morning Tuesday. So not this morning, although we are starting to see some activity develop. This has been the case the last couple of hours across northern Wisconsin, but you can see across central Wisconsin, just north of Madison and Sauk County, we are seeing some activity. Lightning, that's the big concern, and then some smaller hail. Nothing is severe this morning, but it's still possible we see additional storms form. I think that'll, for the most part, be just east of the city of Madison. You can see where those storms are developing and then continue to move eastward. We're at 53 right now in Madison, 60 though in Sauk City. There are some warmer temperatures. La Crosse is also in the 60s. Janesville cooler at only 50 this morning, and Juneau, one of the cooler spots, they're only in the upper 40s. We will see temperatures quickly rise though. We're looking at highs reaching just shy of the 80-degree mark. We've got lots of lift, atmospheric energy, and moisture to work with. We'll talk about what that all means, and then specifically we'll have that timeline for your alert day coming up.
All right, we'll talk to you then. Folks, there will be a lot of storms to track today. Do it right in the palm of your hand with the First Warn Weather app.
First this morning, President Donald Trump is commenting on the arrest of Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan. Officials took Dugan into custody Friday after she prevented immigration agents from picking up a man in court without documentation.
Terrible. What happened there is terrible. That could happen with a judge is so ashamed. And we have to bring our country back from all these criminals that Biden allowed to come in. These are world-class criminals and people that are insane, people from jails, murderers, drug addicts, drug dealers. And, you know, we have a country. We have to be proud of our country. We can't let these people stay, and the courts are allowing them to stay. And we're just not going to allow it.
Meanwhile, one of Dugan's peers, appellate judge Pedro Colon, says the move speaks to the politics and symbolic gestures of power used by people who don't actually appreciate the Constitution or the rule of law.
I think they're trying to send a message to chill the judiciary, to punish someone uneven with an uneven hand, with a lot of force, with a lot of might, to the extent that she has this person I just described to you, who is one of the nicest people in this city, in this county, to be handcuffed and to be brought into this situation is just appalling.
When asked why Americans should care about the arrest, Judge Colon said, because if our constitutional structure continues to fray in the way they are intentionally fraying it, we will not have a working democracy.
This June, Wisconsin Democrats will meet in the Wisconsin Dells for the annual state party convention. There, they'll lay out the ground game for next year and choose a new party chair. It comes after current party chair Ben Wickler announced he's not running for re-election. And there are a handful of candidates to replace him. This week on For the Record, Will Keneally spoke with former executive director of the state Democratic Party, Devin Remaker. Remaker shares why he thinks he's fit for the role.
I've been a lifelong Wisconsinite. I was born and raised in Two Rivers, just outside the city of Two Rivers. I went to UW La Crosse. Thankfully, because of the Pell Grant, I had the opportunity to do so. And I think I bring both a little bit of a different perspective, especially from rural areas of the state, and coming from a working class family that is really valuable at this point in time.
In his former role, Remaker worked alongside Wickler. Remaker primarily managed the staff and program.
The director of the National Institute of Health says he's worried about how cuts and downsizing can affect the health of Americans. Earlier this month, a Trump administration memo got leaked to the press. It revealed a plan to cut funding for the NIH by more than 40%. Since January 1st, 300 employees have been fired and 2 billion research grants have been canceled. NIH Director Dr. Francis Collins shares how this can impact health.
When you're talking about medical research, when you're talking about people's lives, when you're talking about clinical trials for Alzheimer's disease or cancer that may take 3 or 4 years, you can't just go in and decide, I'm going to shut those down and maybe I'll try something else. Those are people's lives at risk.
Collins joined the NIH in 1993 to lead the Human Genome Project. He then directed the agency's development of new tests, therapeutics, and vaccines during the pandemic. The NIH is the largest supporter of biomedical research that contributed to medical breakthroughs like AIDS and HIV treatment and the decline in deaths from stroke and heart disease.
Today, the state trial will begin for 3 former police officers charged in the murder of Tyree Nichols. Former Memphis officers Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justice Smith have already been convicted on federal charges. Today, they'll face second-degree murder charges in Tennessee. Nichols' 2023 beating after a traffic stop was captured on video and led to national protests. Those protests led to calls for police reform in the U.S. and intense scrutiny of the Memphis police office.
1 person is dead and 6 are injured after a shooting at a historically black university on the North Carolina coast. Elizabeth City State University says the person who died was a 24-year-old man who was not a student. But it also says 3 of the gunshot victims attend the school, along with 2 others who were hurt. The school says none of the injuries are life-threatening. It says the shooting took place at the center of campus early yesterday morning. The university says it had just finished a multi-day celebration involving both alumni and students called Viking Fest. And today, Amazon is set to launch 27 satellites as part of Project Kuiper. These satellites provide global broadband services. Amazon was forced to abandon the original April 9th launch date due to poor weather. Tonight's launch is scheduled between 7 and 9 p.m. You can watch a live stream of the launch on the United Launch Alliance's YouTube channel. The first 2 Kuiper Project satellites were launched in 2023.
Today, the Philadelphia Eagles will visit the White House to commemorate their Super Bowl win. Eagles running back Saquon Barkley spotted with the president yesterday prior to the visit. It comes days after quarterback Jalen Hurts dodged a question about whether he'd attend the White House meetings. Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie says it's an obvious choice to visit the White House after winning a Super Bowl, but he added that the visit was optional for players.
The city of Beloit is selling 13 acres of land in Gateway Business Park to a transport logistics company. Blackhawk Transport Inc. plans to build an office and truck service building, both roughly 10,000 square feet in size. As part of the sale, the city is offering incentives to the company for additional job creation. The agreement asks for the project to begin within 12 months of the property closing. Once the project begins, it must be completed within 18 months.
It wasn't a celebration for everyone at Madison's Mifflin Street block party Saturday. Officers arrested at least 42 people. They were cited for alcohol-related offenses, most of them released. Police say additional information regarding arrests will be coming out at some point this week. More than 150 officers worked the event Saturday. There was minimal property damage reported.
Well, let's check in with Savannah. What's coming up?
Storms that we're seeing on radar are well north of Madison and Dane County. We'll talk about if we could see some here and that latest alert day thoughts and timeline coming up.
And coming up in your morning sports, another trio of Badgers who are close to their chance at the NFL draft.
You're watching News 3 Now this morning. Moving forward.
Well, welcome back. This is the latest thoughts on our alert day timing. I still think we could see some morning activity develop kind of in this line, so I think it'll be for the most part east of the city of Madison. We are seeing lots of lightning across central and northern Wisconsin. That's up near Watoma, and even these little white areas, that's hail that we're seeing. Not large, but smaller. They're not even categorizing these as strong. We're not seeing any severe weather. That's not necessarily expected this morning. Some stronger storms are possible. I don't think that'll be severe criteria though now until about 10 a.m. I think this will be maybe even a little bit later now until 3:30 where we could see a break, quickly warming temperatures and also breezy conditions. Scattered storms are going to be possible where all modes of severe weather, including some stronger tornadoes or longer tracked tornadoes in between 2 and 6 p.m. Although our greatest threat is going to be between about 6 p.m. and then run till 4 a.m. Tuesday morning. After that, the threat's going to diminish altogether. We've got an enhanced risk for the most part all across the state, but northwestern Dane County and the northwest of that area, there is a level 4 out of 5. This is where the greatest chance of severe weather is going to be. Lone Rock, the Dells, Camp Douglas, Viroqua, Prairie du Chien, La Crosse, and up near Black River Falls. As far as threats go regarding this, I do think we'll see some pretty gusty winds in excess of 60 to 70, maybe even near 80 80 miles per hour. But this, the large hail, is going to be our greatest threat that we see across the entire state. What the black hatched lines mean, that's the significant hail that we could see 2 inches plus in diameter. When you're comparing that, that's at least 10 egg-sized hail or larger. A few stronger tornadoes are going to remain possible, and nearly, again, the entire state is included in those black hatched lines. That means the chances are about 10%, which is still high, of seeing a significant tornado, which is EF2 or greater. We have lots of atmospheric energy to work with, and also storm energy, instability. We have lift, although I do think we're going to see a cap pretty quickly get put in place. This is a high cap that we have. The storms are not going to be able to break through that. I do think there's still a chance that we could see this break, though. You can see that moving further eastward and our cap kind of breaking, especially for areas that are under that level 4 out of 5. What this means when you're talking about cap, those storms would be able to break through that, and they would quickly and rapidly intensify. So we do have a lot of severe weather ingredients that are going to be needed. Now is the time to plan. This is the day of. Monitor the forecast, download the First Warn Weather app, seek shelter. Needs to be immediately when we do see those warnings get issued. Protect your head. Do not come out until you hear the all clear. The alert days for later today through early Tuesday morning.
All right, lots to look out for in our forecast. Savannah, thank you.
Well, it can be challenging for kids with disabilities to find activities to take part in after school.
CBS's Christian Benavides looks at one nonprofit helping kids hit all the right notes.
You are. The lessons being taught inside this Florida classroom are more than just about musical instruments. For this group of special needs students, including 15-year-old Zeha Navari, it's a much-needed outlet.
It's really nice, helps me calm down a bit. Whenever I feel a little anxious or a little sad, I play the guitar to cheer me up.
Avari's mother, Dr. Diana Anita, is a board-certified psychiatrist who's seen the impact the lessons have had on her son.
It's hard to put into words when you see your kid grow and blossom like this. And this road can be a very lonely road. And having schools like this, communities like this, has really been very touching.
Matthew Villa is the founder of Harmony Hugs, a nonprofit dedicated to teaching special needs students how to play music.
I walk in here and I take on the teacher title. I'm Mr. Matthew to them, right? But in reality, they are teaching me. They teach me to look at the world for the positive that it is, for the good that it is.
Villa started providing lessons at just one school back in 2023 and has since expanded
2 times.
Pretty remarkable, given that Villa is only 16 and still a junior in high school.
We're at 7 locations so far. My goal is 15 locations by the time I graduate high school.
To connect with someone your own age and who speaks your language, who's just taken the time out of their day to be here is miraculous in many ways.
Many of the kids who take these lessons like to showcase their talents outside the classroom.
As a mom, it's hard not to tear up when you see something like that.
You're going to put it here.
Lessons that can bring harmony in both music and life. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Miami.
Villa's experience teaching kids with special needs led him to write a book about a kid with autism who gains the courage to perform in his school's talent show. Now, here's Andrew Banstra with your morning sports.
All day long yesterday, Milwaukee Bucks fans were anxious, hoping that their team could win their 2nd straight and tie their playoff series with the Pacers at 2 apiece. But in the first quarter last night, anxiety turned to fear of something far worse than a loss when Damian Lillard injured his leg and is reportedly, emphasis on reportedly, feared to have torn his Achilles. But to make matters worse, the Bucks could not recover. They'd end up losing it and dropping down 3-1 in the series with a final score of 129-103. The Brewers trying to avoid a sweep by the Birds, coming in having lost 4 straight in 5 of their last 6, but built an early lead yesterday. Rhys Hoskins hits one through the right side, giving the Crew a 3-0 lead in the first, and later leading 5-0. And like he was trying to bundle your home and auto insurance, Christian Yelich drives in a couple insurance runs. The Crew get back in the win column with a 7-1 victory. To the golf links, where Jerry Kelly won the Mitsubishi Electric Classic, shooting a tournament record 20 under par on the weekend. He edged out the legendary Ernie Els by a stroke, propelled by a 10 under par course record in the opening round, which broke Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson's course record. It's the Madison native's first Champions Tour win of the year. Well, they say 2 is company and 3 is a crowd, and the Packers wide receiver room is now more than crowded. Green Bay took a receiver with their first and third round selections, who joined Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, and many more. Matt LaFleur says they didn't plan necessarily to add 2 receivers in the draft, but simply took the best players available. The byproduct is a problem that he says is a good one to have.
Anytime you add competition to a room, that's a good thing for our football team. So it's going to be a competitive room. We all know that, and I think that's a positive. And our guys got to embrace that competition. And if they attack it the right way, I think collectively we'll continue to improve.
And another trio of Badgers are closer to their NFL dreams. The Arizona Cardinals signed wide receiver Bryson Green as an undrafted free agent. He caught 4 touchdowns in his 2 seasons at Wisconsin. And elsewhere, a pair of Badger linebackers got their shot with a tougher road ahead. The Carolina Panthers invited Jaheim Thomas to their rookie minicamp, while the Cleveland Browns did the same with John Pius. All told, the Badgers had 2 players drafted in the NFL draft. Of course, Hunter Wohler and Jack Nelson, in addition to their trio of players that were signed as undrafted free agents.
All right, Andrew Banster with your morning sports. Thanks, Andrew. Still ahead, German tradition unlike any other, and Paul Rudd reprising an old role for a new commercial.
And coming up in our next half hour, a new center for the Jewish community in Madison. We're back. Jennifer says flower sniffer. Take a look at that little doggo there.
Pooch is sniffing something.
Yes, taking it all in, taking in the spring vibes here.
I was gonna say it's spring, so
yes,
gotta do that.
Gotta love
those
it.
Fresh smells out there.
Yes, and
That's
I mean the
gotta be
weekend
heaven
was
for a dog.
great. Yeah, we got out and about, so yes, I can understand why they're doing so. But anyways, Jennifer, thank you.
Hey, well, here's one. You know, I love unique competitions, and this one does not disappoint. Check out the German competition of finger wrestling. It's called Fingerhakeln. Couple of guys strapped together with a leather band here across their middle fingers, and the goal is to just tug the other one across the table. Doesn't that look like fun?
No.
Okay, come on. You ladies don't want to do this?
It seems dangerous, and didn't they say that lots of injuries occur because of this?
Yeah, you know, a dislocated finger or
You
two.
know.
You know.
I just thought it was funny when he whipped the other guy over the table. I mean,
Like,
wow.
do you work out your fingers for this competition all year or something?
Well,
Like,
you don't want to show up with weak
Ow.
fingers, definitely.
Yeah.
no, I'm not showing up, period, but yes.
You know, it's a tradition that goes back to the 1800s, how men settled disputes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one way to go about it. At least it's not like violent. And, you know, it's just like,
It's just violent for your fingers.
Like
Yes.
extreme thumb wrestling.
exactly. You know,
Boy.
this looks like it gets pretty intense,
I
though.
love it. I love it. Hey, Nintendo's new commercial for its highly anticipated Switch 2 is out, and look who's in it. Paul Rudd, looking like he's straight out of 1991. He's bringing back his look from 34 years ago when he was in a Super Nintendo commercial. You ladies remember that one?
No.
91?
No. That was before we were even thought about.
Oh, gosh, everybody's talking about this Switch. I mean, like, the kids just go crazy for these things.
Yeah, they do.
The adults go crazy for these things.
I think
Paul
the
Rudd
Switch
goes
is
crazy for these
I think the
things.
Switch is a cool concept. I personally have not gotten to play it,
Yeah.
but it looks like a cool concept. I had like the little the original Nintendo back in the day.
Yeah, I
but
still
yeah.
have that.
Yeah, so it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I got to admit, I was in a Best Buy the other day with my 11-year-old, and I got sucked into the Switch.
Animal Crossings is a fun game. I played that on the Switch.
Animal Crossings.
Yeah.
All right.
Or Animal Crossing. I don't know if it's plural. It might not be plural, but yeah.
We got you.
All right, well, we're tracking alert day conditions for later. I still think we could see some morning storm activity. I do think this model does a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. So any storm activity this morning, I pretty much think is going to be north of here. We could see some develop and a cap breaking, though, by about 5 to 7 p.m. where all modes of severe weather would be possible. This model doesn't go out further than about 10 p.m., but then we have that line where, again, we could see some rotation in that, but hail and wind is going to be the primary concern with that line that comes through overnight. We'll further time that out and talk about what areas have the best chance of seeing severe weather later today coming up. We are tracking the latest on your alert day conditions, including the threats we could see and when across southern Wisconsin.
Plus, a date for the conclave is set when the Cardinals will begin the process of selecting the next pope.
And the numbers are in. The turnout for this year's NFL draft in Green Bay.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, on a busy Monday morning. I'm Chris Stanford.
And I'm Kyrie Lee. Thanks for waking up with us this morning. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, but it is an alert day.
Hey, we've got the chances of some severe storms today. Got a few different chances. You're going to want to pay attention, folks. Let's get to Savannah Brito, who's tracking some storms that are already firing up across the state. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we are seeing across central and northern Wisconsin some additional storms that are producing some smaller hail and also a lot of heavy rain and lightning returns on radar. Nothing is severe, but we have seen this continue to grow further southward. Right now, just northern Great Lakes County, that's where we're seeing the storm activity in our immediate viewing area. Everything else, Watoma and northward up towards Stevens Point, that's outside of our coverage area, but still seeing some minor hail and also some pretty good lightning that's showing up on radar with those storms. What we have for later in the day when alert day conditions will be in place all across southern Wisconsin and the state of Wisconsin, lots of energy to work with. We've got lift or rotation and lots of moisture. Our dew points are going to be sitting in the lower to mid 60s. Temperatures could break even 80 degrees. We could see a cap in place. I do think we'll have that most of the day, which could limit severe weather, but I also do think that we are going to see that cap break, and also the timing could limit our evening chances and overnight chances just because that's going to be a later event. We'll talk about who has the best chance of seeing severe weather and specific threats that we're going to see potentially. That's coming up in just a bit.
All right, we'll talk to you then. There will be a lot of storms to track today, everyone. So if you've got the First Warn Weather app, you can do it right in the palm of your hand. We have some breaking news this morning. The date for the conclave has been set. The Vatican says the conclave will happen on May 7th.
One cardinal says the next pope will be inspired by the late pontiff. Cardinals aged 80 or over cannot take part in the conclave, but can join the daily closed-door sessions organized ahead of the election. That's called the General Congregations. The person chosen as pope does not have to be one of the cardinal electors, but in practice now always is. And happening today, a Middleton Cross Plains custodian will be in court this afternoon for an investigation over sexual assault of a child. James Myers works as a custodian at Cromrie Middle School. He's charged with repeated assault of the same child. The assault allegedly happened in 2012 in Mount Horeb. A criminal complaint says the abuse happened when the victim was 4 or 5 years old while Myers' girlfriend babysat the child. The Middleton Cross Plains School District says Myers is on leave.
Tomorrow will mark President Trump's first 100 days in office for his second term, and a new CBS News poll finds his approval rating has dropped 8 points since his inauguration and includes lower approval ratings on what's considered one of his strengths, the economy. 53% of Americans now say it's getting worse, although 6 in 10 Americans say the president is doing what he promised on the campaign trail. The president gets higher marks on his other top issue, immigration. More than half of those surveyed support his administration's program to deport undocumented immigrants.
Over the weekend, lawyers for 2 families say 3 children, all U.S. citizens ages 2, 4, and 7, were deported to Honduras with their mothers Friday morning. This followed a routine check-in with immigration officials. A federal judge has scheduled a hearing for next month. The judge says that he has strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process.
A key sticking point in the president's declining approval, the trade war. That comes as market volatility has ramped up over the past few weeks. Taking a look at market futures this morning on Wall Street, Dow futures are down in overnight trading 60 points. S&P futures are down 13 points and NASDAQ futures are down 43 points.
There's a glimmer of hope for Ukrainians. That's after an impromptu 15-minute meeting between President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Donald Trump. Zelensky called it symbolic and potentially historic. The White House says the talks were productive. Hours after Pope Francis's funeral, Trump posted to social media questioning Russia's recent strikes. He says, quote, "There is no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas. Maybe he doesn't want to stop the war."
A video could change our understanding of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The video shows a Saudi national filming the U.S. Capitol. The evidence is part of a long-running lawsuit against the Saudi government by the families of the nearly 3,000 people killed in the attacks. In the video, Omar Bayoumi. Bayoumi lived in the U.S. on a student visa and was being paid by a Saudi aviation company in California. Investigators believe that Flight 93, the one that crashed near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, planned to hit the U.S. Capitol. Bayoumi references a plan in the video.
I think he's talking to the al-Qaeda planners who tasked him to take the pre-operational surveillance video of the intended target.
British police raided Bayoumi's UK apartment 10 days after the attacks. That's where they discovered the Capitol video, along with about 80 other tapes and several documents. Those are all now evidence in the family's lawsuit.
Today, Canadians will go to the polls to vote for a new national government. Mark Carney replaced Justin Trudeau as leader of the ruling Liberal Party 6 weeks ago. Pierre Poilievre leads the rival Conservatives. His Trump-like policies have seen the party's double-digit lead evaporate. This comes as Canadians are growing more enraged with Trump's policies and calls to make the country the 51st state. The latest polls show the Liberals have an edge, but it's close.
Meanwhile, in Vancouver, a 30-year-old man is charged with multiple counts of murder, and the search for a motive continues. The victims gathering at a block party celebrating Lapu-Lapu Day, a Filipino tradition. At least 11 are dead, dozens more injured after a car rammed into the crowd. The victims range in age from 5 to 65. One of the vendors at the festival recalled the moment the car rammed through the crowd.
I hear the engine rev really loudly, and the car sped right through my booth, knocking down a lot of my merch that was on a clothing rack. It looked like a bowling ball hitting bowling pins and the pins just flying out. Seeing bodies just flying in the air was incredibly shocking.
Police are not calling this an act of terrorism at this point. They say the suspect acted alone and has a known history of mental health issues. Meanwhile, hundreds are attending the vigils for the victims.
One person is dead and 6 are injured after a ferry boat crashed after being hit by another boat at Clearwater Beach in Florida. The city of Clearwater says 42 people were on board the ferry. 2 were transported from the scene by helicopter. Officials say they believe everyone has been accounted for and nobody was reported missing. The driver of the boat that hit the ferry did leave, but officials have retrieved the boat. The cause of the collision is unclear at this time, but the Coast Guard and the Florida Fish and Wildlife are handling the crash investigation.
Well, the numbers are in. Around 600,000 people came to the draft in Green Bay. That's more than double the expected attendance of 250,000. Green Bay's got a population of 100,000 or so, a lot more if you count the surrounding area. It's the league's smallest market nonetheless. Green Bay residents say they're thankful the weekend turned out to be a safe one. Green Bay police say they made only 1 arrest and ejected only 8 people.
The NFL Draft is the second major national event to be hosted in Wisconsin in the past year. The Republican National Convention took place in Milwaukee last July. Major events like these have a positive effect on the state's hospitality industry. President of the Wisconsin Hotel and Lodging Association, Bill Elliott, says the state could see $90 million generated by the draft. He also says the draft proves Wisconsin's aptitude in hospitality.
The draft shows that we can have a huge event, and it really shines that spotlight and shows people that Wisconsin is on the map when it comes to hosting these kind of activities. So it may not be about today, it may not be about next week, but it's about the business that it'll help generate for years to come.
The NFL Draft is set to be held in Pittsburgh next year, so it was definitely a big time for Wisconsin and the Green Bay area.
It definitely appears to be a smashing success. I just saw my feeds flooded with people who I know who were there, like just sending pictures with amongst the crowds, and every chance they could get. Families, anyone and everyone was trying to make their way to Green Bay over the weekend, it seemed.
Seems like the plan in place that the police had worked. So I'm glad it was a safe weekend and everything worked out.
That's a huge relief, relief. And what an opportunity for Green Bay to shine.
Definitely is. Well, let's check on Savannah. What's coming up?
Guys, we're still tracking some storms on radar. Nothing is severe and for the most part well north of Madison. We'll talk about the latest alert day timeline thoughts coming up.
You're watching News 3 Now this morning. Moving forward.
Well, today is an alert day, but not until later in the day. We are seeing some morning storms. Nothing is strong to severe, some lightning, heavy rain, and a little bit of hail that these storms have had a history of producing. But these are all well north of Madison and almost outside of our coverage area, kind of up near Stevens Point, Wausau, and then also by Ripon. You can see a couple of cells producing some pretty heavy rain on radar. I think any morning storms, the best chance of that is going to stay north of Madison. We'll turn pretty breezy, quickly warming temperatures. This is a look at lunchtime, showing most of southern Wisconsin already getting into those lower to mid 70s. Then we'll see a break in activity. I do think this is conditional, heavily conditional. We'll see temperatures potentially push 80 between about 3 and more specifically 5 and 7 p.m., really hitting that 5 to 7 p.m. time frame on when I think our cap has the best potential to break. We could see an afternoon round where all modes of severe weather would be possible. This is going to be ahead of the cold front, this line. We could see some embedded rotation with that round that comes in overnight where all modes of severe weather still is going to be possible, but the hail and wind threat is going to be greater overnight. So now until lunchtime, some scattered storms are possible. That leads to some hail, a break in activity until about 3 p.m. And then this is conditional. Scattered storms remain possible. All modes are, I think, our greatest threat, though, like I said, 6 p.m. to 4 in the morning into Tuesday, we have that greatest and growing potential. Nearly everyone at least under a level 3 out of 5, including the city of Madison, but you go northwest, and that's where we have a level 4 out of 5. It's very rare that we get a moderate level 4 out of 5 risk across southern Wisconsin, and that gets into central and even northern Wisconsin, too. This means that we have long-lived, intense, and widespread severe weather, including some long-tracked tornadoes that are going to be possible. The wind threat's there. The hail threat is our biggest threat. We could see 2+ inches in diameter. That's why we have those black hatched lines. Hen egg sized or larger hail is going to be the primary threat. Tornado threat is still there, and you notice that we also have those black hatches over most of southern Wisconsin and the entire state of Wisconsin, too. The greatest threat of violent tornadoes is going to be to the northwest of Madison. If you live near La Crosse, Viroqua, the Dells, Prairie du Chien, Lone Rock, that's where the best chance of stronger tornadoes is going to be. The hatches on the tornado mean that we could see significant EF2 or greater tornadoes then, and I think that's going to be later this afternoon into the evening, the greatest threat of that. We do have a cap, though, so we have lots of moisture, energy, lift, and dew points that are going to be sitting in the lower to mid 60s. But I think this is going to potentially limit our chances of severe weather, but notice what it does. I do think there's a chance that the cap still breaks between, like I said, that time frame 5 to 7 p.m., and that'll really increase and rapidly intensify any storm that is able to break through that cap then, and then we get another one put in place once that cold front comes through. So there is still potential that we see that cap break. Make sure that you have your safety plan in place now. We've been detailing this for over a week, so you should have that safety plan. Basement's the best place you can be, or somewhere underground, a storm shelter. If you live in an apartment or are outside, you want to make your way inside. You basically just want to get inside a sturdy shelter. It's okay if you don't have a basement, but make sure you put as many walls as you can between you and the outside. And if your family or friends or someone you know has a basement, ask them if you can stay the night maybe tonight.
All right, plenty of time to plan ahead here. So yes, Savannah, thank you so much for keeping track of all of this.
You're welcome.
Hey, we're looking for some Plan My Day videos. So why don't you send one in? Make a video, say who you are, where you're at, send it our way through the Facebook Messenger app, email, First Warn Weather app, all sorts of ways. And then watch to see if you make it on the air.
All right, well, a new Jewish community is now open on Monroe Street. Our Meryl Hubbard brings us the ribbon cutting for Chabad of Madison.
Here on Monroe Street, a new Jewish community center, Chabad of Madison, is officially open. Seeing this building come to life is a dream come true for the Matasov family. The cut of the ribbon marks a new beginning for Chabad of Madison.
It's overwhelmingly joyful to see so many people here today.
The grand opening welcomed community members, students, and leaders to celebrate the new center, one that will give Chabad space to expand its Hebrew school and programs for the Jewish community.
We're always finding ways, innovative ways of making Jewish heritage accessible to all the Jewish people in town, and that they should be proud and be able to celebrate without any inhibitions, without being held back.
Rabbi Avramo Matasov says his father bought the first Chabad on Regent Street in 1986. Eventually, they grew out of the space and broke ground on Monroe Street 2 years ago.
The opportunity arose for me to be able to continue with that message from the Rebbe of spreading the light and bringing a candle to all places of the world and helping make Judaism accessible and the heritage accessible to all Jews. That's always been my dream.
Rabbi Avramo spearheaded this project, but he says it took a village to make it possible.
And to see it here, that we can actually celebrate in this space is just so amazing.
He says the Jewish community in Madison is only growing, and now with the new building, they have more space to continue serving them.
I think it's critical for people to have a place that they can consider home, a place to celebrate together.
It's a new chapter for Chabad of Madison, and community members say the grand opening is a sign of strong neighborhood support.
And it shows how much our neighborhood supports us, because so many people here today are from the Monroe Street area and from around Madison and may not even be Jewish, but they know that we're better when we all stand together.
Reporting in Madison, Meryl Hubbard, News 3 Now.
And on the news this morning, tens of millions of new measles cases are predicted in the future as the vaccination rates continue to decline in the U.S. A new study published Thursday in the journal JAMA found some shocking new information. They looked at the potential spread of the disease in the U.S. over the next couple of decades. Their model was based on different vaccination levels calculated using data over the last 20 years. The study found that at current vaccination rates, the disease could become an endemic in the U.S. within 25 years, with up to 51 million new cases.
In other health news, doctors say blood pressure is one of the most important health indicators that we have. High blood pressure or hypertension is known as the silent killer. That's because symptoms usually appear after the disease has reached a critical stage. I spoke with SSM health physician Dr. Rupa Shah, who shared some tips for managing your blood pressure.
Healthy lifestyle measures, right? Exercising, trying to get at least 150 minutes of exercise 2 to 3 times a week if possible. Working on weight if you're overweight, working on even modest weight loss. People think you have to lose a large amount of weight. Really, even 5 to 10% can really impact the blood pressure in a positive way. Again, if you smoke, quitting smoking can really help. But those are all good things that people can do if they're worried about their blood pressure.
Dr. Shah also says blood pressures ranging 120 over 80 is normal, but if you're consistently seeing readings that are above 135 over 85, it's time to talk to your doctor. Coming up in the morning, Sprint, how consuming ultra-processed foods can affect life expectancy.
If you have a little kiddo turning 3 soon, you know what to do. Send us a picture. We'll show it on TV. We're back with the Sprint next. Great time for the morning Sprint.
Following some breaking news this morning, the Vatican says the conclave will begin on May 7th. One cardinal says the next pope will be inspired by the late pontiff. Cardinals aged 80 or over cannot take part in the conclave. The person chosen as pope does not have to be one of the cardinal electors, but in practice always is.
Also breaking this morning, Russian President Vladimir Putin has declared a ceasefire in Ukraine. It starts on May 8th. It follows an impromptu 15-minute meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Zelensky happening immediately before Pope Francis's funeral. The Trump administration had been working to broker a deal between Russia and Ukraine.
Middleton Cross Plains custodian James Myers will be in court this afternoon. He's charged with repeated assault of the same child. The alleged assaults happened in 2012 in Mount Horeb. A criminal complaint says the abuse happened when the victim was 4 or 5 years old, while Myers' girlfriend babysat the child. The Middleton Cross Plains School District says Myers has been placed on leave.
Tomorrow will mark 100 days in office for President Donald Trump's second term. And in a new CBS poll, His approval rating has dropped 8 points since his inauguration. It includes lower approval ratings on what's considered to be one of his strengths, the economy. 53% of Americans now say the economy is getting worse, although 6 in 10 Americans say the president's doing what he promised while on the campaign trail.
Chaos and carnage in Vancouver, Canada. A speeding SUV plowed into a crowd, killing multiple people and injuring dozens. The victims were gathered at a block party celebrating Lapu-Lapu Day, a Filipino tradition. A 30-year-old man has been arrested. Investigators say the suspect was not motivated by terrorism and known to police through his significant history with mental health issues.
A new global study links consuming ultra-processed foods with preventable premature deaths. It shows in countries like the U.S., where consumption is high, the foods cause as many as 14% of premature deaths. The researchers are calling for revised dietary guidelines and public policies.
The numbers are in. Around 600,000 people made their way to Green Bay for the NFL draft. That's more than double the expected attendance of 250,000. Green Bay, the city itself, has a population of just over 100,000. It's the league's smallest market. Green Bay residents say they were thankful the weekend turned out to be a safe one. Green Bay police say they made only 1 arrest and 8 ejections.
Madison police say they arrested 42 people during the Mifflin Street block party Saturday. Most were cited and released for alcohol-related offenses. Police say more information will be coming out at some point this week. More than 150 officers worked the event. There was minimal property damage reported.
Well, right now the radar is busy. We have some storms firing off that have been continuing to be the case across northern and also central Wisconsin. But we also have that line that's out in Iowa and Minnesota. These are the morning ones that we could see over the next couple of hours. Here's a timeline. I also posted this on Facebook. We have a detailed video on our Facebook page as well regarding the timeline. I think the greatest chance of all modes of severe weather we could see 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. tomorrow.
All right, all good info. Savannah, thank you.